Hi, everybody, and welcome back to RHAP's coverage of Australian Survivor Redemption. My name is Mike Bloom, and we are looking down the barrel of what should hopefully be quite the post-merge, especially considering how the pre-merge ended. And it was such a big process that we need to find an excuse to be able to just talk about it on the whole, to talk about what has the first half of the season been so far, how will it inform the second, but mainly this is an excuse to have this person back because she was in our ears and eyes, but a couple of weeks ago, now she comes to us as not only mother, but a mother as well. Shannon Guss, welcome back. Welcome
Yeah,
home.
it's been a couple of weeks. It's fine. It was interesting. We came up with this a few days ago. We were like, I said, I'm like, let's do a podcast. Especially when I was watching these episodes. This week was crazy. I was like, I want to talk about it. I was like, okay, we won't announce it to anyone. And if the baby lets me get some sleep, we'll do it. And if the baby doesn't, we just won't ever do it. The baby did not let me sleep. And I was like, I'm still doing it because I would write in my little notes every time I had a spare minute. I'd write my thoughts. And I'm so dedicated now to talking about it. I'm like, nothing will stop me.
But how does it feel having the whole Lyndall experience now? Do you understand her derision towards Eliza?
I always said that I defended the sleep, the issue with that. But and I was kidding. Sleep on your own time. This is one of the reasons I won't go on Survivor is because I would want sleep. This morning I called Caroline and I asked her, where is the sleep worse? Newborn phase or Survivor? And she let me know this is worse. So one of the fears that I have is that this conversation sounds normal to me, but then like externally it's just like complete gibberish. And I want you as my friend, if this is gibberish, just don't release it. Just full bachelor treatment. Yeah.
Shannon, when you and I talk, it's only a matter of 30, 40 minutes until it turns into gibberish anyway. So we're just sort of rushing through the middleman. We're sort of skipping to the last step already.
Yeah. Well, I'm genuinely, I said that to my mom a couple of weeks ago. I was like, I feel like I'm totally fine. I'm like pan out and I'm just like talking in tongues. So if that's the case,
no. You are sounding incredibly well, especially given the sleepless night. I mean, that's the first question though, is how are you doing? I mean, you have posted some beautiful photos, videos, etc. on your social media, but for those of you who do not follow you there, what's the update? How has life been as a parent so far?
No, loving life. Rory is great. The sleep it's inconsistent.
Mm-hmm.
But people tell you that you never watch more TV than when you have a newborn. My God, is that true? Like I'm never behind. Rarely ever am I behind on Australian Survivor. The only reason I'm behind is because I'm waiting for Peter, and Peter's busy. And I have to watch with him. But it has allowed me to watch so much TV, and then you'll get my text at any time.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had so many thoughts. And so I think Rory's enjoying all of these seasons of Survivor that she is being.
Gotta start them young. I heard Survivor is made for kids. I hear, so that counts from right out of the womb.
Well, she hated Zach Brown. She hated it. But she's enjoying this very weird season, which I feel is like a really raw season. So it's one to start a baby on. But no, I'm doing great. But I'm really excited to do this podcast. Thank you for working around my schedule. Thank Peter and my mother-in-law who just took the baby for a walk. So it's been a big communal effort. And hopefully my thoughts, again, are not gibberish and are worth this effort and that people enjoy it. But it's great to be back in a chair. I don't remember the last time I sat in a chair, but in also this podcasting chair.
Well, it takes a village to raise a child, and I would not be here without the village of people who have been working alongside me to make this happen. But
you've been doing so well, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. I told you, like, I warned for episode 11, like that was the most I felt sort of ill-equipped for like, oh my God, if Shannon was here, she'd be much better prepared to talk through all of this than me. Okay, let me go to my PowerPoint presentation and make all these
I love it.
Listings.
No, you're doing better than me. And I love it because I'll listen to it all through the night. And my favorite thing is when I feel like you're really channeling me, like when I get a great like Mike Bloom, like, what the hell are you doing? I'm like, oh, they're pissing him off now, which is good. And I'm not making my cheesy points. You were correct that like I need a couple more viewings. I don't trust myself. You know what you mean? You shouldn't like drink and drive. You shouldn't like parent a newborn and give cheesy points. But I think that you've been doing a great job. The guests have been amazing. The recap bitches have been on point. It's been wonderful to listen to. And I've not envied you as well because there's been times like now when I'm like, I want to talk about it. And there's been other times where I've literally been like, man, am I glad that I'm not speaking about this season right now, mostly due to production questions. So you've been doing great.
Well, thank you. And I have lots of questions for you. I mean, really, I'm going to hand the steering wheel back over to you because I know you have thoughts, and like you do, they are well organized. So I know there's a lot of points you want to hit about your thoughts on the first 12 episodes so far. I mean, I guess the obvious question is, what have you been thinking about it?
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot's going to be colored, I think, by the last 3 episodes. But like, what's the temperature on redemption for you at the moment?
We're coming on a high, obviously. Like episodes 10 and 12 were the 2 best episodes of the season. I think episode 10 is like just a perfect episode of Survivor.
Yeah.
Like that's so classic. And that's the kind of thing that's really hard to do, even when, and like 50 has been amazing, Zach Brown aside. But it's really hard to get these type of votes, like a big classic 9-person vote with this hierarchy toppling. You go out with an idol on a challenge throw with 2 split votes. Like, we'll talk about it in more detail, but what an incredible episode. And then you get episode 12 where another hierarchy topples more from within, rather than kind of like the people on the bottom toppling the people on the top, which is so classic. But to have Mark finally turn against Faith, like these were some earned storylines, and I love that. It took me a while with the season because at first I was like, what is the tone of the season? Especially after I left, and it was that Johnson episode where Faith spoke to Johnson that way. And for a long time I was like, why are they talking to each other like this? Like, you should talk to each other like this in real life. And it was a lot of different people. It was led by like a lot of like Faith and Keely, and there was like these hierarchies that were cemented. But even just other people, they'd ask questions. They'd be like, I'm not going to share. Why? What? This is, there was no niceties. And we talked about this even when I was podcasting, the way, even Mark was doing this with like in Johnson and all of that. I was confused by it. And I was like, who am I rooting for? Because I'm rooting for the returnees, but are there any newbies to root for? And I was kind of struggling with that. But then I realized, and as has been kind of affirmed over this week, like that is a feature, not a bug. Yeah. Because I feel like we got these, again, incredibly earned downfalls. Like sometimes I don't think you need to root for people. You can root for downfalls. And it's not anything personal against Faith and Aisha. I think they're both incredible casting. But I feel like for me, what felt like a tone that was a little bit toxic has now turned into something that's really raw, again, like kind of really classic, almost like old school Survivor. It is quite personal, and it has amounted this week to 2 very satisfying storylines where those things, they like that comes back to both Aisha and Faith. Like the fact that Faith talks to people like that, the fact that she said that to Mark, like she was an evil villain who tied him up and was telling him the plan, which is not what anyone would do, that comes back to bite her. The fact that Aisha can be there at Tribal Council laughing that Brooke is going to go home, she suffers for that. And I think that when you get that kind of comeuppance to these storylines where they almost were caricatures to a point, but like great casting. I think that to me, now I understand the tone of the season. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I do think there's been a lot, and you talk about the energy that I brought to some of these podcasts of like, this shouldn't work. None of this should work. Why are you doing this? How are you getting away with this? And that's also a little, that's a bit of Australian Survivor. I sort of walk into every one of these episodes. That's why my Chizzy is so like present oriented, because I'm like, listen, it could really take their game, but we have seen time and time again in Australian Survivor how people are like somehow able to get away with it. We talked about AJ last season. I feel like that was always the MO of like, okay, truly he did this thing that is just going to get him blindsided the next day. No, it actually strengthened his position. Okay, shows what I know, or shows what the edit is showing us. And so, yeah, it is this like interesting bit of not morality, but almost like an Aesop's fable coming in to be like, no, pride cometh before a fall. No, you don't need to necessarily be completely honest with someone about what you're doing in their plans. And that's a very fun, like you said, very earned story as well. You also wonder in hindsight, like, were they edited to be a little more two-dimensional to sort of satisfy that downfall narrative? Now, for what it's worth, Faith did tell me that, she's I wouldn't say she fully says like, I stand behind everything I did, but I don't think she necessarily feels like she really offended anyone out there in the stuff that she did and said. But it did feel like, again, especially in retrospect, certainly from a Faith perspective, it's like, oh, they were building her up for a fall from the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's the thing is, and then like I tweeted about this and I got responses like they kind of got these like two-dimensional villain like mustache twirly edits. It's like, but why were they twirling their mustaches so much? Like, and the thing about, we'll talk about it with the Australian Survivor, it's like they can edit anything, but that stuff was real. Like that stuff was the realest stuff we saw, and I do love, again, how earned this has all been. Like even something like Blanche's idol as an example. Like that could have been so annoying. Like firstly, she never should have even got the idol. She lost the bluff They should have been giving it to someone who was like, who had the stake, who was winning the bluff, who thinks she's winning the bluff, but actually she's not, because she's not getting a clue to an idol. She can't even find the idol. She's like, I'm not good at riddles. I'm like, I don't know that take shelter is a riddle. It's a word for something that's on the beach. She can't find it. She doesn't take it, and then she gets blindsided. It was like, I'm glad
Blanche would have gotten tricked by Judd Doherty saying the idol is definitely on the ground.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, what makes a riddle? That's not a riddle, I don't think. I mean, if I, again, at 2 a.m. with less sleep, apparently, than the Survivor people, I'm like, that's not a riddle. Things like that. But yeah, I mean, for Aisha, you couldn't have scripted that better, right? Like, she threw the challenge, seemingly pretty individually. I know she said that's not true, but she was in that hero spot. She's laughing at Brooke at Tribal Council, and they've made these hierarchies so incredibly clear to me, but from everyone's perspective. So yeah, I think these were 2 great episodes, and I think they culminated all of these arcs in a really interesting way. It leaves us in a really interesting place with the merge, even though we've lost a couple of huge characters. And that's so enjoyable. So I'm loving it right now.
Yeah, well, let's get into, your thoughts on maybe some of these specifics here. I know you mentioned a bit about your thoughts on the Aisha bit, but anything else you want to get into from just, again, like, this made Drew Christie look sympathetic by comparison with how much they were really building her up for that fall.
There was so much here that I loved. I loved the double split that Brooke did to get to a 1-1 if there was a double idol play. I also really loved how they were like, Brooke's up to something. And so her playing the idol actually shouldn't have triggered Aisha, because then it's actually less confusing. It's like, if Brooke doesn't have an idol and she doesn't play an idol, it's like, well, what is she up to? If you're really going to believe Cameron, and honestly, credit to his read, you might be like, hey, she's not playing an idol, so she doesn't have that. We thought that might be a thing. What's happening here? Do they have the numbers? Maybe then you play an idol. I know that Aisha said she was never thinking about playing Blanche's incredibly undeserved idol, but you might question that. But when Brooke plays it, you're like, oh, she doesn't have the numbers. No wonder she has a little bit of confidence to her. She's not going home because she's playing an idol, but we still have our split. But no, there actually is then like a second lie on top of it. The brains, the Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
Thank you. The Beauty and the Beast alliance have the numbers.
Shannon, does it make it easier for you this season in your sleep addled brain that they name every alliance on the show?
No,
just
it's
so you
awful.
can easily remember it.
It's awful. I can't keep track, and I won't keep track through this podcast. But yeah, I mean, I think that was a really great part of it. Again, like the fact that there was a split, they had every single part of it covered. And even though I said that the newbies aren't that rootable for me, and I know rootable in Australia might mean something a little bit different.
I love every time Omer said it.
And I know it. I'm still saying it. But I actually do think that the Beauty and Beast alliance is a very rootable alliance. I think that Jackson
certainly, if you check Survivor Twitter, that's true.
Yeah, Jackson has emerged as possibly the most rootable newbie. Really, like, surprisingly, like Jackson was so impressive that he got that happening.
I know.
And I feel like, I know that Laura said with you that it was kind of hypocritical that he was defending Harry's honor when he had taken Harry out of the game. I thought that was quite sweet. It was like, no one blindsides my allies but me. And I quite love that. I obviously am rooting for Simon and for Brooke. I've wanted to see more from Loz. We've gotten like kind of nothing from her. Ben's also there. So like this alliance, like you've got to love underdogs toppling a majority. Well, the overdogs who are seemingly such a clear minority,
right?
But then they don't attempt to hide that.
Yeah, it's the row to Madamu thing, right? It's like, exactly. These 4 are technically a minority, but they feel like they're the ones that are in charge. But so it felt very good. And yeah, I also got your comments, people. I did realize that Ben's last name is Davis. That's why he's Do-Rag Davo, which is also weird because there's a person on the challenge this past season who was also named Ben Davis, who's completely different. So now my worlds are just colliding in too many ways.
And he Do-Rag Davo as well?
No, he is I think he's like a ringside sports commentator that was somehow put on the challenge.
Okay, well, I also didn't get the Davo thing, but I just didn't question it. That was the difference between me and you. But yeah, I mean, I think this is a really fun alliance, and I think that it made so much sense for all of them. And this is why I would say it's classic Survivor. It's a tale as old as 2002 when, if you show people they're on the bottom of the hierarchy, like they might flip that thing around. So that was wonderful. Then the faith vote.
Yes. Okay, we need to get into this because, yeah, I mean, this is, I would say, definitely one of the biggest like betrayals we've experienced in a first half of an Australian Survivor season. And I would say one of the most like visceral betrayals we've experienced. I mean, maybe I'm thinking about like George turning on Shawnee, but like, and maybe Sam and Jesse, but like,
Flick I don't know. Turning on Brooke comes to mind.
Yeah, Flick turning on Brooke is a good one, but like, I just can't think of in recent memory, especially considering how much from the beginning, like we were led to believe that like Mark was Faith's first ally and vice versa. And now it all leads to him flipping everything against her to the point where she is so confused. She's basically like, "Oh, Mark, I'm so sorry that you had to basically not force a deadlock and you had to vote me out." And Mark's like, "Oh, no, no,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. I put this in motion for a couple days now, honey."
Well, there's that arrogance because, look, they would have needed to know that Sally was the target. But because they have the pre-47 revote rules, they left it open that just Caleb and Richard could do this. Like, maybe they know that Sally's the target somehow. Maybe they're just taking a swing. Like, they were going to have a 2-1. That's why I think that she kind of questions this in the exit. But, like, did she even know that Mark was part of that at the point where there's one split vote not on her? They could have done this without Mark. So there's kind of that arrogance of trying to do a 2-1-1 that's not going to amount to like winning in a revote. And it just takes the people on the bottom coming together, which sometimes, I know that they didn't for the entire post-swap until now, but sometimes they do. So yeah, I mean, look.
Tez's impact. He left and then everybody started flipping on the majority.
Finally. He was like the one thing that people were like, we're just going to go for Tez and then we'll start doing that. I do wonder, like, there's to me like a bit of a barrier between the pure closeness of something like a Brooke and a Flick, because Faith's entire relationship and Faith and Keely's entire relationship with Mark has been centered around weakening him, which I love to talk about because I think I said weeks ago, don't weaken the returnees. They're talented players. They are experienced players. If you give them an inch and you anger them, they will take a mile. Now, was that the whole problem? No, she also told him to his face that she wanted to cut him at a point, which she did not need to do. But this is exactly my point. You can work with the returnees. To work with them late in the game, cut them late, but work with them purely, sure, let them like be the bearer of their talent, you know, like rely on that for sure, or take them out. But to just weaken them this whole time, someone like Mark can turn around and do this. Someone like Simon and Brooke can turn around and do that. I know they were trying to target Brooke, but there's experience here that can do that. So for me, it's not such like a deep betrayal because, I mean, I see Mark was pushed into having to do this. And I think this whole time it's like, well, Mark is so paranoid. He's such a dictator. It makes me really worried for his OTT edit because he has so many confessionals. But it's like, is he a dictator? Is he paranoid? Or, you know, he never wants us to talk. Every time we see you talk, you're talking about weakening him or maybe even targeting him. Like, and I think you said this on the podcast, like, I don't know if that's paranoia or just, you know, being justified. Like if you are someone in a relationship and you're possessive or jealous because you keep getting like relentlessly cheated on, is that being possessive or is that like being intuitive? So I completely see why Mark needed to do this. I think it was a great move. And I think this is actual redemption. The storyline of like, I let my allies go, like Mark's redemption, if anything, other than losing that final challenge, was that he did not strike first. That is why Viola went, because there was kind of that waiting. And he lost Don to that. And then Don was the Viola, which was shocking. No one saw that coming. But he actually struck first here. And I think that that was a very good thing to do.
Yeah. So do you think that he's going to be set up? I mean, where do you think he's going to be set up? Well, I think we'll preview the post-merge as a whole going forward. But obviously, I think the big downside of this is that you are leaving Sally in the game, who has been throwing your name out. You are possibly severing this relationship with Keely, who is already brokering these relationships with the other side. Do you feel like Mark is in trouble based on this move going into the merge?
No, I mean, look, also Faith voted for Sally, so that might come back on Keely. Like, they've really broken apart here. Obviously, Rich and Keely had something that's now also been fractured.
RIP board of directors.
Yeah, that was barely there. Mark has options. You know, Mark is like really close friends with Simon in real life. Again, they're trying to weaken each other because I think they get some sort of like stipend every time they mention weakening each other. But I think he has options. I think kind of any of these people could possibly, and particularly Mark and particularly Rich, could float into this Beauty and the Beast alliance, which is like the biggest actual like conglomerate of people that we have. And we have like all these other individuals, even like Blanche is not that close to like Lottie, like Aisha was the seeming connector there. And then this tribe is all completely shattered. So I'm not that worried about it for him. And what I loved about it as well was we want to talk about the twist. Like it comes off the back of this twist. And I think, again, what you're really trying to look for in Survivor is like, is this like production doing this or is this earned? And what I loved about the Faith vote was that even, and we can talk about it, like at every kind of step, this was earned. Like even the fact that Keely ends up going on one vote to redemption. And again, like if she and Sally have votes, it should be a 3-2-1, but I guess like, and they should still be able to vote out Faith. But I guess you never know if people are there to talk about it, how it kind of changes things. But even that was so earned because Keely going to redemption, it seems like they had it worked out. She was meant to vote for Rich to at least get to a rock draw between her and Rich. Yeah. But that all changes. And why does it change? Because at first they're like, okay, it'll be Faith, Keely, and Mark. And then they go, as they always do, maybe actually it should be the women and we should take out Mark. And then that all comes around and they're like, no, we'll keep Mark. Should we try and weaken him? Should we try and send him to redemption? No, we'll keep Mark. And in that, it gets kind of lost in translation. And Keeley doesn't vote for Rich, goes straight to redemption. So even that alone was so earned, let alone everything Faith was doing here. So yeah, I can't blame Mark for wanting to do that. Mark goes as an idol now, which is good. Like, I think he is in a, better spot than any of these returnees should be, considering the extreme anti-returnee sentiment that has been part of the season.
Yeah, I mean, as Faith said, apparently it's just a luxury to get them on the jury in the first place.
Yeah, and it's a luxury that they're not asking for. The two idols found, like purely found in the season, are by Brooke and Mark. This is the experience level that I'm talking about. And I know that you've said, well, maybe there's like a don't vote for the returnees policy. Firstly, man, would that suck? Like, do not manifest that. That is, but even if that's true, even if they can't win, why you take them out or work with them is because they can do this. And they did twice this week with idols in pockets. So the returnees, I think, will always have that and be dangerous. And I think Mark has that going for him now. But yeah, this Faith vote, I mean, this was amazing. Did you end up coming on the side of the fact that this was like the right thing for Mark?
Oh yeah, I definitely was. Mark got 3 points from both me and Omer. Again, like there's a couple of downsides, but I think that's also playing with fire when it comes to being connected with basically everybody, and to that point, Sally would have been the most unconnected. But I still come back to the fact that like Faith was not necessarily going to the specifics of like, yeah, listen, Mark, I can't tell you that I'll go to the end with you, but hey, let's get to 3, 4, we'll fight it out then. It really did seem like she left it as open-ended to be like, yeah, you're not in my plans. And I don't know, if I'm Mark, especially if he's in this sort of like hyper-aware state, my mind at least would jump to, okay, is that like next round then? And we even saw a couple episodes beforehand that Faith and Keeley were talking about specifically, we want Mark to be an early juror so that he will vote for us to win.
Yeah. There's not a lot you can do when someone says that to you. I think that Faith misread Mark. I don't know if it was because there's been this whole narrative that even the editor's selling about, well, Mark's just like so loyal to his allies. And it's like, well, actually, I think what you'd say about Mark is he's very, for lack of a better term, diplomatic to his frenemies. Like the Caroline relationship actually, I think, more echoes what he had with Faith and Keeley. Because again, like with number one allies like that, kind of who needs enemies, like they weren't exactly like wonderful allies to him, just weakening him all the time and talking about targeting him. But I think that that's the kind of thing where you'd be like, okay, I can kind of work. He's going to be diplomatic towards me, even if I'm in some ways antagonistic towards him. But Mark has never been an overly loyal, non-self-interested player. Like, yeah, he worked really tightly with the V's and they worked with him really closely. Like, he's never going to be someone who's like, oh, okay, thank you so much for the jury. So I think that has been a misread on his game. From his allies who kind of just think maybe he'll just take more than he was willing to. And obviously like Caleb and Rich as well. Also, like it's more just like who will take them. It's the first person who was willing to strike. They would have, as we've seen, gone anywhere. I thought that this was finally a great couple of episodes from Caleb, who's just kind of been, at first, I also just like sitting around and like being the vote. Not being able to do much. I also felt like he was just screaming a lot. Like, and screaming's not necessarily like a personality, but
and in the course of like a 2-minute period, he screamed both. It was the best day of his life and the worst day of his life while on Redemption Beach.
And I'm like, they can hear you, right? Like they can, like, there's no way you're far enough away that they can't hear what's going on. So Caleb was not kind of hitting for me as a character, but these last couple of episodes, firstly, I thought he was great in the twist. Where the first thing I thought was like, I mean, we'll talk about the twist. I thought that they were going to just be doing a challenge to like an old exile challenge to be in or out. And I was enraged about it until that was not what happened. But the fact that he was like, oh, we should be taking out physical players. If me and Rich are more likely to be there, then I would rather someone I could beat. And I felt like this was underratedly terrible from Sally, who was like, we're going to send the 3 guys. And I think that really triggered something to be like, Mark's been great at these challenges. I don't know if I want to, be against Mark when I could be against Sally or Keeley. And I know people are like, well, they should have taken out Faith, Faith's a bigger player, but Faith had just won immunity. I think they went straight for the physical players in Sally and in Keeley. I thought that was spoken. We saw first from Caleb and that was great. And I also think, and also from an entertainment perspective, I think like the throat slitting was good. It's been a better character and strategy couple of episodes from Caleb. And it plays out as well because then he wins the challenge and that's deserved because he put himself in like a better challenge setting for himself. And Rich, we need to talk about Rich. Rich is like also like he's had a really good underdog story. Rich has been to I think 9? Is it 9 tribal councils? Yeah,
so he did not go to the 2 that Baron went to in the pre-swap, and then he did not go to the one that Aisha threw in the post-swap. So yeah, it's been 3 out of 12 episodes essentially.
Yeah. I mean, as we've spoken about, there are winners who go to fewer than 9 tribal
I
councils
mean,
that he's been
David
to
called
through
out that
merge.
Brooke's only been to 3 total. She basically has been to the ones that Rich has not.
Yeah, and I mean, look, how many did Parvati go to that I've argued about this for but whether she's half a winner? Like, look, in New Year Survivor, 9 is like a good innings for a winner. He's been, and he was left out of the Lindell vote. Otherwise, he's been kind of in these votes. He's been included in these votes. He seems to be socially better connected through exits than he's looked on screen.
Yeah.
He didn't have the edit to sell this underdog story early. So now we're kind of catching up late. But I'm like, if you look at the stats, like he's really there. Like Aisha said she was really close to him. So why was he not targeted? Why, when Harry's like, vote out Rich, are they like, we're not entertaining that? He had these relationships we didn't see.
Oh,
and
yeah,
now
he has his star-crossed lovers relationship with Simon, apparently. Now
Yeah,
they're finally
Simon-
going to be reunited.
Simon has him like a Geordie on the other side. Like there's been, and Keely obviously wanted to keep him. Like he was getting in good with people. They choose to keep him over Lindell. Lindell's the only vote that he's not in on. He's only received 3 votes. Much of the post-swap narrative has been around like save Rich, keep Rich, you know. And I think from a story element, the fact that he's like begging for his life in the challenge, like really like got to me as well.
Which
I think
time? The time he faked or the time he did it for real?
he did it for real. I mean, I knew he was faking it. So I think Rich has had, and then it culminates in these 2 episodes. So firstly, I think the vote for Keely was really smart because it was a physically based vote in a different world where she votes for Rich as she's meant to before everything gets screwed up. At least it's a rock situation. Not that you can really kind of track what was happening there, but I think it made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And then now he's part of this vote on faith that Caleb and Mark and Rich do together. So that's like 2 pretty good episodes. So yeah, I feel like he's like coming into his own now. It's a shame that the edit has hidden some of these people from us because again, there's a lot of like emphasis, I think, on the returnees, on our players that have gone. And I think these are the players that are going to have to really like come up through the merge.
Yeah, I mean, I think as Australian Survivor likes to do, they like to make an emphasis on like the main characters of that episode. And oftentimes that falls on the people who are making the moves. And Rich seemingly, as according to Aisha, seemed to be involved in like, you know, was friendly with the group that was making the moves, even if he was not necessarily the one making the decisions. Then the post swap, while he hasn't been necessarily like completely in the minority, except for the Lindell vote, he has not been the one that has largely been making the decisions. We do get, you know, his own little lamb to lion metaphor, right, with the whole wave thing. So that makes me hopeful that like Rich will at least last a long time here. But yeah, I don't know if he's experiencing a bit of a cash flow at the end, in a manner of speaking.
Also, quiz me on what wave stands for. For thousands of dollars, I couldn't. So wave. What would W be for? Watch. Wait.
Yep. What you get 1 for 1. Watch.
A is, I know V is vote, and E is it endure?
That is correct. So you got three for 4 right now.
Yeah, I remember that because I was like, that's not anything. Like obviously you have to vote. That shouldn't be part of the plan.
Well, no, maybe not when it comes to Redemption Beach.
That's true. And then A, action?
Adapt.
Sure. No, but I do think, I mean, look, Rich was the first name we ever heard in the season, and he was swap screwed, and he's made it through to the merge. And it's not even like Caleb was kind of saved through the twist, which was so interesting, by the way. It was meant to be, actually what was meant to happen is it was Sally choosing as a swing vote, technically, between 2, 3, 2, 1s. I'm like, this is actually really enjoyable. Does Sally understand what's happening here and how fun it is? I don't know. And
the situation's as prickly as a cactus.
Yeah. Sally, someone else we haven't gotten a lot from, but I feel like that was going to be fun. Then we got the twist. But yeah, Rich hasn't even been he wasn't even saved by the necklace. And even then it was earned. We'll talk about whether it should have been allowed, but like it was earned that they really desperately want to give him the necklace. Like there's a lot of good stuff happening here. So I think Rich is going to be a character. Like we're going to have to fill in these gaps that we've lost Usher and Faith. Yeah. And someone like Rich, I think, is going to have to be a big part of that. And this like new Caleb who is finally hitting for me a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Caleb, it's a little bit of a case of like, is he the dog chasing the car? Like, what happens when he actually grabs on? Does he go after the next one, or does he just sort of like sit there now? But we know Caleb, he cannot sit still. This guy's the freaking honeycomb mascot for those who get the reference. He's a Tasmanian devil, except I don't think he's from Tasmania, actually.
Yeah, but that is actually maybe, I'm trying to think that Caleb reminds me so much of a fictional character, and I don't know who it is. I think it might be the hyena from The Lion King, but I think there's also, yeah. But I think there's also, is that just it? I don't know. For a while with Caleb, yeah, I really wasn't getting it. But now I feel optimistic. A lot has changed for me this last week. Can we talk about production, speaking of? Because I feel like that was a big part.
Let's see if this optimistic train keeps going, Shannon, because yeah, it was a relatively, twist-free first 5 episodes. The swap seemed pretty regular, except they did it right after the reward challenge so that a bunch of people got to watch other people eat meat pies. munch Lyndall's pie, I think as she put it, really
No.
oddly.
Oh, really? She said
But
that in front of my baby?
really, we get like almost like a triple whammy in episode 9 here. So let's walk through this a little piecemeal. I guess let's start with the double immunity challenge.
Oh no, I'd love to start earlier.
Oh, please,
I
okay.
hate to take the reins. The idol lie.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
Unforgivable. Unforgivable. I'm not over it. I'm so angry.
I said on the podcast that I did not
Yes.
think I could channel your rage, and I think I was correct in that.
It was disgusting. It was truly, and the juice was not worth the squeeze. Like, for what? So that we would think Lyndall might play the idol. It never even felt like she would. Like, I think they should have over dodoed Lyndall more than they did, which they didn't. Like, they could have had more fun with how ridiculous Lyndall was being. But then the one thing they do is they make it look like she could have played the idol, which is so unfair. Like, not like this. It made Brooke's move make no sense. They screwed up firstly by not having the idol go through to emerge. They try to make it so timed that people would use it, that people didn't even get the chance, really. I think that it worked really well when they had it through a swap in 2019. They should have kept it that way. And then taking it away so you can't even use it as a fake, for what purpose? Like,
that's really the most egregious part. It's like,
well,
I mean, but I would say it's if anything, if you're gonna expire, like, imagine like Heroes, Healers, Hustlers, where
exactly.
Chrissy's holding on to the super idol and using it as a fake doesn't really matter in the end, but like, give the people the tools to build something. You know, Simon would have attested that first and foremost.
Yeah. So all of the decisions to that, leading them to seemingly having to do this, which they didn't have to, were already bad. But then lying to us about the idol. I went to my baby and I said, thank you for getting me off the podcast, because I imagined the alternate reality where I'm on the podcast like, why is Brooke playing this idol? And then Brooke clears it up and I'm like, well, now I look stupid. But then they lied to us so hard. And in my sleep adult state, a week and a half postpartum, I went back and I'm like, but how did I fall for this? Like, I'm meant to be trained. I'm meant to be an expert in them not lying to me. So there were 3 things that they did. And it really, really, really pissed me off. The first one is that she's talking to Mark like he knows that the idol is still active, which he would know from Brooke. So I was like, how could Brooke say on social media that it wasn't live? Like, her closest ally in Mark is saying it's live. But no, if you go back and rewatch the conversation and you're not as sleep deprived, but even so, it's clear he only ever says to her, oh, and you're good at finding idols. He never says it's active. But if you think it's active, you would think that. So I was angry at myself and I was angry at them. The second thing, where I was even more angry at them and myself, is Lyndall has the famous confession where she says she has a bounty idol. If you rewatch it, clear Frankenbite. How did I fall for this? We never see her say it in that order. It cuts away from her when she says she still has the idol. I should have caught that.
Which feels like, again, as you mentioned, so much work. Why would you hunt and peck through all these confessionals to try to put together the sentence, I have the bounty idol? For what payoff?
I'm not looking to be blindsided. I'm an audience member. I'm not playing this game with you, production. And then the third thing, the most egregious thing, unforgivable, putting the idol blatant lie in her lower third. Blatant lie to the audience. For why? For what gain? And then Brooke's going to come on social media. People are going to be in exits like, that wasn't... And I know that we're a small percentage of the fan base who even cares about this. And if you ask most people, they're like, what was still active? I really don't enjoy doing this with production. And I really don't enjoy doing it in my first couple of weeks with a baby. Like, I don't want to be doing this, playing this game with you. And I'm like, and especially like the way, again, people talk to each other really strangely in this season. And the edit is a little bit weird. So I'm like, I don't trust anything. And I think you said it best. Like, I don't know how you said it. It was, well, you said it well, that they should be like embellishing. Yeah, exactly. How could they put it in the lower third? I'm still so mad about it. But I'm willing to forgive because not actually unforgivable.
I was going to say, we don't exactly we don't revert to the trail of good decisions because, I still, as I talked about on the episode 9 podcast, I was not a fan of this series of twists, but let's go sort of piecemeal through them from your perspective.
Yeah. Okay. So would you want to do the pair challenge?
So let's start with the challenge first, which for those of you who might not remember, because it feels like a lifetime ago, they each competed with a member of the opposite tribe. And then because Baron had 2 more people, they drew rocks. And would you have it in the mounting storyline of, oh my God, we have to flip everything and take out Aisha. Aisha doesn't even get the chance to participate in the challenge because she and Lottie draw the rocks.
And that would have really sucked. If they had if Simon had lost fire and they vote out Aisha there always would have been an asterisk of like, wow, she didn't have the chance to compete because she drew a rock. And that would have ruined a really fun blindside. Like, I'm so glad one episode later, not only did we get the idol coming in and exiting the game in one episode, but she throws her own challenge again. It's so earned. How much is it on this basis of like production versus the players? And if Aisha had been, again, fairly blindsided by a great group that comes together, but she hadn't been able to compete, I would have hated to even be talking about that in a wonderful blindside. So that was annoying. The fact that they were like, I don't know how to do this because it's really fun. The actual challenge is so fun. They should be doing this in like returning seasons. Imagine on 50 if they have this, we're getting these kind of other dynamics. That's really enjoyable. I really like that part of it. Either you just do it at a pure swap for the first immunity challenge where you know that people will, maybe because you don't want to go to the double tribal at that point, but you know that people will be even, the tribes will be even, or they just play the challenge. I don't really care. Or at the very least, if you want two people to sit out, I want them to be doing a pick. Like, I want them to actually be picking the players that they want to be with, and then at least it's earned for the people who sit out. But to draw rocks was bad, and I think we saw as well, like they corrected this from AUV World in that they didn't draw rocks for the fire hero. Then we got this wonderful stuff around choosing Simon, and then Simon doesn't throw, much more again earned. Then Sarie has to do it because she picked a rock. So I think they should know, like, random draws always way less interesting than the like actual player decisions. So like that was the small thing that was actually bad, but I really did enjoy the challenge. See, and that's like on a more macro level, like that was a fun decision that they made.
Yeah, I mean, I would say in general, as we'll keep sort of going through these twists, my general take on production this season is I feel like the players themselves are making these things entertaining. I think if you give another cast these types of twists, I think they do more by the book things, or they probably don't make it incredibly entertaining. But I do think this cast is incredibly unique in a number of ways. And one of them is like, they have been making a meal out of this thing where they were frantically whispering to one another. And you have this sequence where Brooke and Rich are begging Simon to drop. And then Mark is on the sidelines being like, hey, don't drop, don't drop. And then obviously we'll get into what happens with the fire making, where Simon's being told by two different alliances that he's a part of to throw the challenge. Or even Redemption Beach, again, where it could have just been open shut. Okay, Keely sent over to the other tribe, they lose, and then she's voted out without a vote to her name. But no, they decide to turn it into the blind side of the season so far.
Yeah.
So leave it to these players that, like, they are going to take up, I think, every inch they can possibly get in this game, no matter what's being offered to them.
Yeah, and even like, so let's talk about this non-elim, because at first, again, I was really angry about the non-elim. I thought that they'd have to compete. I mean, I think we were misled, again, not as badly as an idol in the lower third, but the players clearly thought it was physical. I thought it was physical. I went back and I checked David's language. You know how much I'm going back and checking things while I'm still on maternity leave? But yeah, he says you'll have 1 foot out the game, which they didn't, and you'll have to fight your way back, which is not true.
Maybe the 1 foot is a vote. Like, they're severing that foot off.
Yeah, that's what we say. Votes are feet. I think that's a thing.
Poor like, guy, what's his name? Damien, who was, I think, the double amputee who was in Champions versus Contenders.
Why would you take it there? Why would you go to double amputee? Why would that, like, are you sleep deprived? Like, why would you? No, that's just full bloom. Yeah, it's true. I don't know how you do it all. But anyway, this twist ended up being a lot better. I know people are still angry about it. Like, what's the worst case scenario is obviously like Keely goes on 1 vote. Then I kind of think the worst thing would have been someone going on rocks. One of the worst things about the twist is it was so overly reliant.
And you're talking about the scenario not where the people who got votes drew rocks. It was that, because remember, it was also if there are only 2 people's names were in the urn, then everyone else had to draw rocks.
Exactly. It was like there was like this perfect Goldilocks thing. It was like if 2 people are in the urn, rocks. 3 people, good. 4 people, rocks. Like, it was like right on the money. And they perfectly did it so that we weren't drawing rocks. Thank you again to this cast for making things earned. So I can't, like, but for me, there was so much randomness. It's like, this is just happening to one tribe. Like, sure, they lost a challenge. But my God, 3 of 6 people are going. Like, this all felt so random. It was so rock-based. But
yeah, I mean, we were going back to like the Palau days, right? At that immunity challenge when it's like, all right, here's 4 people against 8. Go.
Yeah, so... Yes, I mean, it's been very, very, very tough for that tribe. I want to say Baron? Bounty?
No, it's New Bounty. We didn't get your name. Bountier, maybe? Bounty?
Bounty, yeah, I loved Bounty. I thought that was good. And what did you say? I
think I said like, I think like more Baron, like I'm trying to, no, it was Lord, because it was Baron, Baron to a Lord.
Baron to what?
A Lord.
No, it wasn't. I remember saying it was good, and that's not good.
Bear rocked. instead of
You had a
Baran.
good one for what
I
the
can't remember
anyway.
what it is at this point. I'll look it up.
Okay, so what were we saying about the twist?
So
Oh,
yeah,
right. Okay. So it was really okay. Fine. The rocks. It was really random. When I thought that randomness would amount in a challenge to send home like a Keely, I was like, oh my god, it's that idol thing again. I will never forgive them. Like that's not how Keely should go. Keely should go in some epic Aisha type blindside, which we're about to get from Faith. That's not what happened. It's a lot more convoluted. It's a lot lower stakes. Like they just lose their vote, and I don't like when people lose their votes either. But if I'm going to complain every time someone loses a vote, I couldn't watch US Survivor. So the fact that all of that randomness and that convolution led to just that, I was more okay with it. And then if you follow every single point of it, that the other tribe throw a challenge and Keely goes home, which is someone at their most screwed by this twist. I still think it would have been somewhat earned. Again, I think Keely and Faith were outplayed in that tribal council. I think there's a reason why Keely doesn't vote for each, even give herself the opportunity of rocks. And it was around the whole wise woman versus their relationship with Mark relationship, which is so earned and so built.
How
into
dare
the
you not
narrative.
invoke the name head/home office?
I'm not gonna lie to you, I forgot it in the moment. So even her being there, I think, was earned. Her not winning the challenge is earned. Caleb has given that as a strategy, and Rich has chosen her for that very reason. So her doing badly at the challenge would be earned, and then it requires the other tribe throwing, your own tribe not saving you by throwing, and then the other tribe, you know, on the fear of possibly all the things they've said about throwing challenges. There could be a twist, there could be a reason, there's just been some fractures, they still vote you out. A lot of that would have been quite earned, even though she would have been kind of like a sitting duck. I feel like she would have been a duck that had swum to that place.
By the way, it was Bear Off was the name that I gave to Bear 2 instead of Bear In.
Wow, that felt great to me in the moment. So I knew it was better than Lord.
It's not that much better. Well, we need to talk about this. Isn't even a twist, but I have to get your thoughts on this carrot in the box.
Oh, wonderful.
You know, BS game that essentially, and it wasn't a BS in terms of a concept, it was quite winning in a concept. But I said on the podcast that I feel like this should be not only in every Australian Survivor season, but every Survivor season in general. I don't know if you were as high on it as I am, but give me your thoughts.
I loved every single second. I was freaking out when I saw the preview. I was like, this looks so fun. You love when you can learn more about the players. They all made decisions. You know, like Simon's like, I'm going to be more social about it. Brooke's decision was, I love that Chappelle was like, Shannon would say, this is antisocial. I love when you guys like invoke me. I'm like, I'm not dead. Shannon would say this to us. Just message me. It's fine. But Brooke, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze for her either. I've watched Brooke through 2.5 seasons. I've worked for an entire season of television with her. I know her personally. And I learned new things about her. She got me. I was like, there is no way that this is a bit. It was. And the thing about Brooke is, you know, she's a good player because you know that she's a good strategist. She's obviously physically incredible. She's socially so lovely. I didn't know that she could do that. I don't think they needed to know that she could do that. That is terrifying. And for the tart, I agree with Omar. Also for a terrible dessert, for some chocolate mousse, sure. But for the tart, no. But even though it was the most impressive thing I've ever seen in my life. And I thought this was so much fun. The only brief criticism that I had was that I don't think that Blanche should have got an idol she didn't deserve from losing the bluff. I think
all worked out in the end.
Yeah, exactly. She couldn't have, she never even laid a hand on that idol, and as was deserved. This was so fun. It is funny that US Survivor is like, how do we solve the auction? It's like, the auction is fine. The auction, but they're like, what we'll do? No, none of that. Just do this carrot in a box thing. So much fun. You learn so much about the players. That was a great twist. So production has done a lot right as well, you know, but production have been taking some swings through this last couple of weeks.
Would you want there to be an auction now after this, or would you be fine if like this was sort of the form of the auction for the season?
I saw that David did a Q&A and he basically said this was the auction.
Okay. I'm not entirely mad at it.
I saw it as the auction. I'd also be happy to have an auction. Like, I think the stuff is always fun. It's different enough from an auction that you could definitely do both. An Australian Survivor is certainly long enough that you could do both. But I also see it kind of taking the place of that. I know that Survivor South Africa has done, like, what's it, White Elephant and like kind of other takes.
We did the Yankee swap at the merge. It was
exactly.
You complete the individual challenge, then you like sort of pick which plate to sit in front of.
Yeah, so there are other ways of doing it. I thought this was incredibly fun. What else from production did I want to either yell at in a good way or a bad way?
Oh, well, I mean, I'm going back briefly to the Australian versus the World Fire Making Challenge 2.0. I mean, what did you think about this? Obviously, a bit of a take. We saw this last season, but a bit of a take on the classic. Vote 2 people out and they compete against each other. Were you fine with the choose your champion method rather than just having, assumingly, like Aisha and Tez compete against each other?
I really, really don't like when people are voted out and then can come back. I'm like, you're not even saving a non-elim, and now we'll always have that over your head that you were technically voted out. So yeah, I much prefer that they didn't go to the vote. I think this is fine. Like, I don't think it's necessary. But I mean, again, the cast got the most out of this as possible with the incredible challenge throwing debate that was happening. For
Now,
Simon
the
here.
only downside is that it led to an interesting moment where Simon
Yeah.
is able to give away the necklace to Rich as he walks out. Now, you, of course, have famously coined the idea of the tribal council trap door, so people do not say anything once they are officially voted out, not even before their torch is snuffed. So do you feel it should have been allowed for Simon to do this?
No, I mean, this was clearly absurd. Like, what do you mean? He asked, they said no. He was like, it's fine. And then he gave it. What are you talking about? Ridiculous. Ridiculous, because that tribal council that he had selected to keep the necklace for is closed. You know what I mean? He's won, so tribal council is over. He should have to sacrifice something. That's why it's an interesting debate. It's like, Simon, do you want to risk your life in the game to possibly save Rich? Now we can have that conversation. But at the point where Simon has chosen the necklace and the necklace isn't protecting him because he's won that challenge, no, that's a ridiculous thing. If it's an idol, like, again, he should have to sacrifice something. He should have to pay something to try and save Rich. So if it's an idol that he can use in the future and he wants to give that to Rich, sure. But for me, it's the fact that, like, the tribal council has closed and the necklace that he's chosen to keep with it. That's what makes it an interesting decision, because it's not an interesting decision for him to just give the necklace to Rich, other than, okay, maybe he's outing that relationship. There's some social blowback. Faith is like, don't do it. And he's like, I've never actually met you, Faith.
Yeah.
Like,
I just met you today, and I have a very distinct impression of you.
We've actually never really spent time together. So there's that part of it. But yeah, he should be making an interesting decision around risking himself to give it to Rich, or risking a commodity, like an idol that is actually worth something, where this necklace is now not. So that was ridiculous. But I think most of it is, again, like, these little decisions where you're like, how is it playing out that way? But mostly, I think, other than the egregious thing is the idol lie. But otherwise, I actually do think production have done really fun things. Yeah.
Well, on that note about the idol lie, give me your thoughts on the edit overall. I mean, you loosely referred to is about how some people are maybe getting the shorter end of the confessional stick, as is always the case in Australian Survivor. But what have been your thoughts about, the storytelling and the characters that really have popped to the forefront so far?
I got a confessional shot. My brother sent me.
Oh my God.
Crazy. Brooke has 11 confessionals. Did you know that?
I mean, I didn't know that, but I assume that. I mean, I'll run down the Chizzy numbers with you later, but like,
Yeah,
Brooke is in very high standing, and the reason why I was so surprised by that initially is because, like, she's been a very steady, calm background character essentially until the Aisha boot, and so, like, it does make sense, but it doesn't at the same time, considering, like, she's, a very good player. She had this underdog story. I would argue, from an edit perspective, she's in one of the big positions to win the game. But
I would think so.
You would think so, but then you realize that, yeah, she has been kind of, and also it doesn't help that she's been to tribal council 3 times, right? And Australian Survivor especially is very heavy on, like, if this tribe is going, you will get content of them before the challenge, after the challenge, even before the challenge, at the beginning of the episode too. Like, they really lean heavily on, like, okay, what's going on with half of the cast in this episode?
And also, Baron were like losing reward or then winning immunity, which is always like the worst thing for an edit, where we're going to go back to the reward. And then, especially in Australian Survivor, and there's a lot going on with the reward. In saying that, Brooke's a returnee. She's had 2 idols. We can make more of the story, surely. She's a great character. She's not the type of character that they can over edit. She's not like a big bravado type character. So maybe they would struggle with a winner like that. I'd have to compare it to her other seasons, which I am not at this time. I just couldn't believe that she has 11 confessionals, and I couldn't believe. So Mark with 53 confessionals, and then Keely on 30. A lot of the heavy lifting, even on episode 12, where she's at redemption, she gets 8. And now that we've lost, I mean, like, Faith and Aisha had 22 and 23, and then it goes to Simon on 21. Even Simon's been kind of quiet. And then Caleb on 20, and Lottie on 20, a lot of that in the pre-swap. I mean, it's kind of like, can anyone win but Mark, especially because Australian Survivor does over-edit their winners, and you kind of get this OTT edit. But then Mark's had a lot of negative content that I don't agree with, that they've painted him as a dictator, and I'm like, I don't see it personally. I mean, I guess maybe the positivity that shines in his edit is, like, I'm haunted by the ghost. Like, I guess, as you mentioned, he's trying to live this redemption narrative, but it's kind of fitting a square peg into a round hole. And yeah, I don't know. Is it sort of the enemy of my enemy is my friend, where, like, yeah, Faith and Keely are constantly calling him a dictator, but, like, the edit is trying to say that we shouldn't like Faith and Keely, That's
and so
fair.
therefore it's fine.
That is true. Who could possibly trust? I mean, Faith for me also, were you getting Harley Quinn vibes? I think because of the
Ooh, it's because of those space buns, yeah.
yeah, it definitely is. And also the fact that she also all that stuff she was doing.
I
I
love
thought Faith was
Faith.
great. Amazing character. Again, Harley Quinn is a wonderful character as well. I just look at this and I'm so shocked that like even Jackson, who I think is like again one of like the returnees the newbies you can really get behind, 17 confessionals. Is it mark or bust? Like I'm really shocked by this because otherwise I was gonna say more like Simon, Brooke, even like a Lottie, even like a Jackson. And then I look at these numbers and I know I'm the kind of person who's like, in Australian Survivor, it's way more than confessional numbers, and it is. And if the storyline is there for a Brooke and we know kind of like what she ended with Jackson and we're behind it, sure, but man, like the disparity is just crazy for me. And I also think that they've done kind of badly with some of these characters, like a Rich who we should have got more from, who the underdog story is actually wonderfully there,
Right.
and they're choosing not to do it. I really like Loz. We've seen nothing from Loz. I really like Cameron. He's hilarious in the background so often. His read was great on that Usher boot too. Nothing from Cameron. Ben is there. Yeah, I think the disparity in confessionals has been crazy, and the edit has been a little wonky as Australian Survivor does it. But like, it almost opens up the game more because I'm like, if I don't believe it's Mark, it can kind of be anyone because they're all so low on this kind of edit totem pole.
Yeah, I mean, it also is a little bit of Mark, there were some significant times in the pre-swap where he didn't go to tribal council, but he has been very much involved. I'd be intrigued to see sort of like the confessional numbers for like episodes 1 through 6 compared to 7 through 12, because he's gone to tribal council pretty much in like every episode from
he was
7
getting
to
a
12.
lot at all of it, to be honest.
And has gotten like a significant amount of obviously play there. And I guess he was involved as well in the Cat boot, in the Johnson boot too. So
Yeah.
it feels like it might be a case of like he is doing a lot and the show likes to cover people who are doing a lot. I do feel like from an edit perspective overall, I mean, you can't say we're going full edit because Australian Survivor is also so weird. I do still think a case could be made for Simon. I know that Simon, I know Simon didn't have like some stuff in the beginning, but I feel like he has been like arguably one of the main characters of that post-swap bear-off tribe. And I think, we'll get into previewing it. I think, he is, despite the fact that he seems to seemingly step in it every time he tries to make everyone happy, I think he is set up well, as you talked about, from a connection perspective. So I would say those are like probably my top 2 winner picks at the point of the merge, with Brooke in third, which is wild, right? Because if we're talking about the anti-returnee status of Faith telling him like, hey, by the way, we're all going to vote you out at jury, from an edit perspective, these 3 are being painted as like maybe the odds-on favorite to take it all.
Yeah, I mean, looking at Mark's confessionals, like if he doesn't go to tribal council, he's getting like 1, 2, or 3 confessionals, and if he goes to tribal, he's getting like 5, 7, or 10.
Yeah.
So like but he's always getting. Versus Simon, like you would think they would kind of over-edit Simon. He's like such a massive character in the franchise, but he's been low-key through the season. He's had a lovely edit. Like his tone is wonderful. He gets that like redemption arc, and he's crying about the blind side. He has been, not that I really care about the challenges, but he's been so physically incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that in like a weird way. I've just never seen, like, he's always in the hero spot. He often does well in it. Like he often wins on it too much. They want him to stop. And he's just like physically just doing so much in these challenges. And he gets that redemption kind of storyline strategically. And I think that socially he's been great. He has this big blind side. Like Simon, they could really, I don't think, have put a foot wrong. And what Simon has done is he has really destroyed the idea of throwing challenges. Ironically, he was looking to do one in the last episode, but they say like, never throw a challenge. And I'm like, damn, even I was laughing in his confessional when he's like, I told you not to throw that challenge. And who could blame him?
He to then say that to Aisha when he was hugging her.
Yeah, he was really
I'm not going to say this for when you watch it at home. Let me tell you the lesson I imparted upon you.
It's actually not to better my position in the game. I actually wanted to prove a point that's important to me about throwing challenges, and that's why I voted you out. Like sometimes you can throw challenges, but I do think, I think you and Pooh were talking about this, like less so in Australian Survivor because there will be possibly some tomfoolery from production. But for me, like throwing challenges, like, yeah, like there's always situations where you might more to save someone on the other side. Yeah. But yeah, Simon has like completely destroyed that narrative. Like for any casual as well, especially, is going to be like, see, I'm like, well, they'll always point to this. So thank you, Simon, for that. But yeah, I mean, look, the merge and the edit and all of it is so wide open now. So wide open. It's been such an interesting, like from where I came from to the people we've lost along the way. Don, crushed my
Oh,
heart.
you lost your love.
I know, and I was like he should get cheesy points. He went back to Mark and like, well, I'm like, he's gonna make this whole vote happen, and then I was like devastated by that.
I mean, that was
Lyndall,
I have to get your reaction to that because that was wild. And in talking with people, it really did seem like Keely came in with this idea by herself and was able to create this vote to happen, go right under Mark's nose and take out one of his closest allies.
it was very impressive to watch. It was like the one time as well, it was like, I actually see here why you're weakening Mark because it's to save Sally. I don't think the numbers would have been there to take out Mark at the time, so I don't think you can just take the shot. And Don really did weaken Mark. Like Don really was like an asset for Mark, at least in the short term. So I actually thought like it was still risky, but for the first time, like it was actually worth it. And then I thought they did even better than that because I thought, well, Lyndall and Rich could really be numbers for Mark. But I think they swooped in and not only just took out Lyndall, but then actually collected someone like a Rich. So I think they did kind of isolate Mark, but then waited too long to strike. And then he just did that first and they kind of gave him that opportunity. But it was like the one time where I was like, actually see the vision of this, even though I've been so anti, like just weakening the players.
Yeah.
So impressive, so devastating that it would happen to Don. I was like, we had more to give. Don being coach-like in the challenges. Like Don was delivering. He just learned the social game.
Well,
like,
that's the fun of it though, right? That he kept claiming that he didn't have a social game, but arguably the reason he was taken out was because of his relationship with Mark.
He really should have stuck to the shelter. Like, that was when he was comfortable. He knew. We shouldn't have tried to make him someone he wasn't, like we should have just accepted him for who he was. So devastated then. And then like, yeah, losing Lyndall where I was like, she's long for the game. She has plot armor out the door. What?
Yeah, and give me your perspective on that, because Puya and I were both sort of like, this is kind of like a surprisingly womp ending for Lyndall. I know, again, they tried to pin it as like she could have played her idol, but it just seemed, and this was also the weird thing where it was like two splits happening on two sides, basically, which led to this odd sort of like, I think it was like 5-2 to 2-1 vote or something like that.
Yeah, I just felt like the Lyndall edit never made sense to me. They should have gone way more full Dodo. I still think that the Lyndall arc is like one of my favorite parts of the season. The fact that what I call the messenger massacre, where she just kept just like shooting people on her doorstep, was wonderful. I was hoping it would continue. So losing like Don and Lyndall, who were some of the best entertainment from the newbies, was unfortunate. And then
what about Johnson? Because I realized that you actually dipped out right when the Johnson boot happened. What did you think about apparently, according to Faith, like his sort of self-immolation and like refusing to subscribe to this Caleb plan?
I mean, honestly, and that was the episode that was the first episode I watched after I gave birth. So I was like, I was so confused by that episode. I'm like, is this me? Is this them? What happened to the plan? They never explained it. Then Brooke played her idol. It was very confusing. I don't know if that was just a me thing. So I kind of feel like I was like, let's move on to the swap. I don't know what's going on with this one. Poor Johnson. I mean, I kind of felt like it feels like it maybe spoke for itself and was a little earned, but like Johnson just kept getting reamed. Just like called out by everyone at any chance. Like I felt bad. I was like, get him off this island and get him like get him a drink.
That if she didn't go with the plan, she'd light him on fire.
That's why I was like, am I dreaming this? Like, what is like like have I fallen asleep during this episode? What about he was being threatened with immolation.
Yeah.
He was at tribal council from the first second. Tez was like, Johnson, he was like, what? And then like Mark as well. I was like, get Johnson to a hotel with a drink in hand because there's again maybe earned, but
remember at that first tribal council when Kat's like, I have something to say, Johnson sucks, and here's why.
That entire swap, like pre-swap tribe was like no one, nobody at all, anyone on the tribe. Johnson, I will light you on fire. Johnson's like, please. Like I'm sure again, like maybe Andy Johnson seems to have been bringing that out in people, but when I watched Faith do that, I was like, is anyone watching this?
I mean,
she was like, we had a good
they have both claimed that they took that in good stride, that it was a joke between them.
But what are we as the audience meant to do with that information?
Really,
like I was like,
trying a new relationship you made 2 weeks ago by being like, if I say I'm going to light you on fire, you won't take that the wrong way, right, Johnson?
See, this is why I'm different, because I would be like, ha ha ha, and I would go cry because it was all of it. It was even just from when Tez was like Johnson, like from the beginning. So yeah, and I feel like that Johnson was meant to happen. They would like. They were trying to make that happen for weeks, but
well, talk to me about Tez here, because Tez is also one of these, especially from an audience perception. I think he also sort of got what you would assign to Johnson, which is like I think a lot of people did sympathize with Tez, that they felt like he was not being treated right, particularly by Faith and to a certain extent Keely and Mark. He had this again. He was basically nowhere until he pops up kind of in this post-swap tribe, and he's trying to figure stuff out. But this Lyndall episode was just a big old hot mess all around.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Tez as well. Like, I felt bad for Tez because it was, again, these like cemented hierarchies that, again, you're like, I don't know if this is likable, but then they will implode and it's deserved. So you understand the narrative fulfillment. But for Tez, he as well was doing it. I was like, why? This is like Survivor unsocialized. Like, what is, he would be like, I heard this. Mark would be like, from who? And he would just be like, I heard it. And I'm like, is it me? Is this how people talk to each other? Like, I really struggled with so much of that. I feel, again, like I felt bad for Tez, but again, it felt really earned.
Rich is like, all right, say a name. Give me a name. He's like, Faith? By the way, I have to go step away and talk with somebody really quick. Now, he did clarify that was because apparently, like, Lyndall got up very
and believe me, I can believe it.
And went
I
off.
can't believe it. I can't believe it. Like, again, like, this is something where a couple of weeks ago I was like, I don't know what to do with this. But now that you look back, you're like, this was really entertaining. Like, the narrative that was leading to it all worked. Like, it's the same way that this is what this Premerge has been. It's the way that, like, surgery, halfway, and I know because I just did it. Surgery halfway through looks like murder. There are photos on my phone of my organs. But at the end...
Who and why would anyone take that?
I don't know.
Like a reference photo for what's inside the body?
It's actually really funny. I'll probably tell the story and gussing around. But, like, they were taking photos of the baby being born from the C-section. And I don't know. I haven't seen them. But, like, when the baby's out, you can just see all my organs. Peter accidentally did see them. I don't. But then what will happen is every so often... like a couple days after the birth, you know how you kind of get those slideshows? It was like 28th of February. And I'm like, no. And like, sometimes I'll be like scrolling back trying to find a photo and I'll get to that time and I'll be like, no. And I'm like, I have avoided it to this point. But anyway, the analogy being halfway through looks like murder. This Premerge, that was that for me. But by the end, I'm like, I see the vision. This was actually just like sewing into a great, and a baby was born and it was these blindsides. So I get it now. Yeah, a lot of that in hindsight. And also probably at the time, like hilarious. I don't understand so many of these people, but I now know I was never meant to understand them. I get it now. But yeah.
Well, let's look ahead to the next child being born, I suppose, the post-merge. So I had this
baby of the
little
merge.
handy alliance
I
graph.
love you put in so much more effort than me. How am I ever going to get this gig back?
It's more so from my own brain of like, let me try to organize this. You have things very nicely organized in your own brain that I just have a very difficult time expressing. And I'm missing a little bit, like Omar pointed out, that like Mark and Brooke should be connected technically. I feel like there should maybe be a box around
I don't know
Caleb and Mark.
Keely with Mark, like...
Technically speaking, you know, head office is not an absolutely obliterated alliance.
I don't know. I mean, look, you've put Keely with Sally. I don't like... Faith just voted against Sally. So I guess Sally would be like, she wouldn't do that alone, Keely, would she?
Keely's like, I didn't have a vote. I didn't know that was happening.
A lot of these lines are doing some heavy lifting for some questionable things. Mark just voted out Faith, so that line is questionable. Rich voted Keely on the redemption, so that line is questionable. And Caleb's whole thing is, I want the returnees out. He did this, but like, I don't know.
That's why there was the courtship cartel, though, Shannon. Never forget.
Yeah, I don't know. Sure. If it has a name, it must be official. Then Blanche, again, I think it was more with Aisha. I kind of think the only legitimate thing here is Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
And it's who can slip into that.
Now, what about the Simon Lottie thing? We haven't talked a lot about Lottie because again, she hasn't really popped up in the post-op. The only time she did, her closest ally went home and she was blindsided. I mean, do you feel like she is going to try to seek this deep-seated revenge against him at some point?
I also thought that was funny. I think you guys spoke about it, that she was like, well, I'll work with you again if you vote for Jackson. It's like, Lottie, you are on the bottom. Why are you talking to people like this? You say please and thank you if they come to you with any name that's not you. Do we understand what's happening here? I don't know if I don't think this is a big issue for Simon's winner edit. I think it's just an Australian Survivor thing where they'll be like, oh yeah, Simon's close with Lottie. Just know. Oh yeah, Simon's close with Rich. Just know. Like, and we've not been like informed of that. I think it's whoever can slip into Beauty and the Beast. I don't think it'll be Lottie. I think that, can Lottie cobble together all these individuals who have beef with each other? That's the question, and probably not. I think Mark slips in here with Simon and Rich too. And maybe there's a couple of like big macro votes on some of these bottom tier people, because where is the fault line? And I don't know, because if you'd asked me before this week, I would have said that the fault line of the merge is going to be like Aisha et al. With like Faith and Keely, like against them, and that's the duel. And then Aisha goes, and I think, okay, what it's actually going to be is like Mark versus Faith and Keely. That's going to be the fault line, and where will Beauty and the Beast go? And maybe they'll like back up Mark. Now that's already gone. So now I don't know where the fault line is. Is it like a Mark v. Simon? They have a real life friendship that's very close, but are they just like the big dogs who've amassed stuff in different ways? Like Mark has an idol, Simon has this alliance. Is that it? I don't know, probably not early because they're good friends. They probably want to play with each other. So I don't know where the fault line is right now because we just got rid of 2 in 3
Yeah.
episodes.
No, I agree with you, and I talked about this throughout these past few episodes, that I feel like Mark and Simon in particular are sort of fighting this weird Cold War where Simon says, "Oh, protect Mark," and Mark's like, "I will do anything but protect Mark." And then Simon's like, "I will take out Keely and weaken you and bring you closer to me," which is now carrying over into U.S. Survivor as well. I do agree with you that I think, at least initially, it's going to be Beauty and the Beast plus Mark, probably plus Rich. So I guess of the other 6, do you see that there's going to be like a very easy consensus merge boot? Like, do they immediately go for Lottie as someone who's threatening, or is it like, I mean, I know Omer suggested like Sally could be very easy because I think even her closest bonds just voted against her.
Sally has Ben.
Oh yeah, I guess that's the case. Though, I mean, Sally did sort of leave Johnson high and dry, and Johnson was very closely associated with Ben.
Oh, Johnson, my God.
I mean, maybe Keely could be with Ben, of like sort of friends of faith, like let's get revenge on her.
Friends of faith. I think Keely and Lottie are very vulnerable and probably big enough threats that they could be like a big merge boot. And then
unless we really see the Jackson Caleb rivalry heat up. Give me your thoughts on that.
I mean, Team Jackson, but again, like Caleb has only really come into his own for me recently. But like Jackson being like, I don't like that you. I thought that was so endearing from Jackson with the Harry thing. And I thought Caleb was being incredibly annoying. So I was Team Jackson, but I also think it's very funny. Yeah, I'd love to see it play out. But like Caleb and what army? You know what I mean? Like Jackson has like an actual group here. Like Caleb was just easy picking. So
I don't know. I just love the runner that like at every challenge you just have Caleb go like, "Hey Jacko, what's going on?" Just like, what is this ghoul in the corner doing to me?
Cut to me again being like, what is happening? Like what are they?
Oh my God, when Caleb got the best of him, then Jackson denied him the high five. Oh, that was golden.
That is so true. I think this season has been answering a question over 4 weeks that I didn't know. Like if you cast as a bunch of like deranged people, will it work? It took a month, and yes. Like actually, yes. The funny thing is preseason, we're like, these people are all just so nice. And maybe that is true, but man, do they not know how to speak to other human beings? Like, I do not know what's been happening.
The more I've been talking about it, the more I realize, like, is this low key the Survivor 46 of Australian Survivor?
A little bit. And you know what? Like 46 looks so good in hindsight. Like it was hell to go through. And I said, we can only do that once every 4 years. But yeah, like it's not nice. And for a while, you're like, and they're posting a lot of like 46 clips at the moment. And like, obviously with all the 46 stuff on 50, I'm like, wow, I just like remember how much I loved that season.
Yeah.
Because it was so raw and these people just hated each other. And yeah, I think it's very raw. It's very personal. It's old school. This to me is like old school Survivor. Like you get a 9-person vote, someone goes out with an idol in pocket.
After throwing the challenge.
I think the thing that after throwing the challenge, I think the thing
and also not an idol, someone else's idol. You're supposed to hold on to for safety.
Undeserved. Yes, I mean, look, Aisha and Faith both took that so well, and that's not 46 like that's the one thing where it's a bit like that's not how you were portrayed thus far, you know. And that part it's nice. But that's like the one thing that makes us a little less. At first I was like, I don't know, it's kind of mean, it's kind of toxic, I don't know if it's for me, but now I realize we're here to be mean, we're here to have that all crumble. So I'm enjoying it. Yeah, and it's been so fun to talk about it. Thank you, Mike. And thank you. You think my baby's just screaming at the park right now?
Well, if your baby has like a Caleb-like volume to her voice, then I think you could certainly hear her from a mile away.
No one does. But anyway, I should probably go take care of that.
You should definitely go take care of the child that came from those organs that are memorialized in photographs that we will hopefully never see. But we will hopefully see you at some point, Shannon. You know, I'm assuming, again, it's a 24-episode season. We don't really know diddly squat about the rest of what's happening. I'm trying to look. So Faith was voted out on day 24, which is over the halfway point of the game. So I don't know how many episodes there are going to be, you know, if there's going to be another non-elimination, because they have to get rid of what, probably like 10 or 11 people in the next like 10 days or so, or 20 days.
Yeah. I convinced myself it was like fewer episodes, fewer days, and no non-elims. So I was like, oh no.
I think we're gonna get one more. And we should also say as well, after a lot of schedule wonkiness, I think for the first time this season, we're back to Sunday, Monday, Tuesday.
That's good. That's good to just be just at a normal schedule for the first time in a month
Yeah.
again. Yeah, no, look, it was a lot of effort to be here today, but I would love to do it again.
Well, we're so
We'll
happy
see.
to have you back.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm so happy that you are doing so well and that you have become, the incredible parent that I knew you would always be. But I also always loved your voice messages as you were responding to the episode, and so I'm glad we were able to make this work. That you had the opportunity to come on and just sort of like word vomit about all your thoughts on the season so far. Because as you mentioned, there's been a lot. This was a really packed, really eventful, really interesting pre-merge. And I hope that sets things up. You never know with Australian Survivor. We have seen quite a few seasons that have taken an absolute nosedive when the post-merge hits. But I don't know, just given the general timbre of this cast, I don't think that's possible.
I mean, I don't know where it's going. This week was shocking in many different ways. This episode just with Faith going was very surprising. It's been fun. Was this gibberish?
No, this was quite the
Okay, good.
opposite of gibberish. No, you were incredibly well-spoken as always. Well, people are making the incredible mistake of not following all your adorable baby and cat and Survivor Take content out there on the internet because you are still giving your thoughts about US and AU episodes out there. How can people follow you?
Yeah, at Shannon Gates. Yeah, tweeting about it. It's funny because I've been trying to get away from Twitter, but now that I'm not podcasting, I'm like, it's kind of led me back to Twitter. So, I mean, I don't know if that's good or bad, but it definitely gives me something to do in the middle of the night. And then Instagram is a lot of baby stuff. Also, but I was featured on the Survivor Instagram.
I know.
The US Survivor Instagram, which was cool. That's all that's been happening in my life. So, and I have a baby.
And you have a baby. So, Shannon, I love you. I'm so happy that you're doing so well and that you got to come back here and talk about all your thoughts on this. Hope, I've kept everything relatively
You've done
intact.
so well.
Nothing
Too well.
shattered so far.
No one
Who
will want me
knows?
to come back.
I mean, no, I don't think that's true at all. Come on. You are the greatest person to do this. I am but a paltry successor for the moment.
no,
Did you
you've
get
been
the Succession reference, by the way, that I was making to Omer about how
course, of
Home Office
course.
was like the Roy siblings?
Yes, and also he should be watching Succession.
I personally agree, but that's another conversation for another day. And I'll be back on another day on Sunday to talk through episode 13, The Merge. Is it going to go exactly as we expected, that this big Beauty and the Beast plus friends supermajority will form, Lottie and Keely are in trouble? Or, as is typically the case with Australian Survivor Redemption, will something happen out of nowhere?
Will something else happen?
And people will just be incredibly blunt and honest to each other's faces for no good reason. Who knows? But either way, I've been so entertained by it so far. Hope you all have been as well. Until next time, everybody, take care. Bye-bye.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.